using the chart to analyze a character, to watch time, then what's time to do this, what time to do that. That's one level of astrology. Now, use it for inspiration, use it for insight, using it for art or for personal expression or for contemplation or meditation. Wow, it becomes a whole different tool. So aspects have stress patterns. If you have certain stress patterns, they're going to have a certain mood or color to it. Putting those colors together will express that stress, and it may not be interpreted so stressfully seeing the colors. This is a square from Taurus to Leo we're looking at. It's still a beautiful square. You know, it's going to be very different from a square from Scorpio to Aquarius. All the different colors, they color this way. So each square has a mood. So not only is a square waxing or waning, or an aspect waxing or waning, or it's the exact conjunction or opposition, it's waxing and waning, it's going to have a mood on top of that. And I find the moods of the colors tend to mellow or harmonize or heal some of the harsh comments you're inclined to make just thinking concepts about a square or about an opposition or about these aspects. It's where astrology can be very hurtful if someone doesn't have a compassionate or inclusive understanding of it or comprehension of it. Okay, now we got a bit more minutes. I'm just about talked out. Not really. I could talk around this for a long time. Just while I'm thinking a little bit, I'll let this play a little bit more. We're kind of going around it a second time. So as it's going on, we're seeing the sun and moon, but each planet has its own cycle. From what sign it's into, whatever sign it's in, each planet has these cycles going on. All these notes are coming together in a vibrating sound scale that you are. So you start to see, like in the 40s and in the 80s, you had the bundle chart. In the 40s, all the planets were built up between Gemini and Virgo. They were all really tightly in the orange, amber, yellow. Paul McCartney, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr had their charts way over, everything just in those bright colors. Living in a yellow submarine, but when you take the 80s, they have their 6 planets in Scorpio, Sag, or Capricorn. You have all the dark blues. You have this really dark social factors coming in. And of course, the internet wasn't there in the 40s. So in the internet and everything working together, being on the web, talking, learning, working with computers, all this stuff of pulling together, the whole world's come together in a different way. But in the 40s, that was nonsense. That was none of that stuff. You just did something. It was a totally different world, different colors, different moods. So anything you know astrology, when you're looking at timings, when you're looking at cycles, when you're thinking of people with certain colors. Wow, somebody relate to their color. So an aspect is a relationship. It's the energy between a relationship between two planets or two people or two things. And in that relationship, there'll be a color, there'll be a feeling, there'll be a sound for every 2 planets in your chart. There's hundreds of aspects. Just like, if you count these, if you count the angles, but even not counting angles, you've got the planets and the sun and moon, and you got one to each other. You got about 90 some odd aspects. And each of them have their own color, their own mood, their own texture, their own piece of you. If any one was taken away, it would affect your nature. But in our life, we tend to get caught in certain pockets of certain colors, certain attitudes, certain behavior, and we don't live as holistically as we could. And often, the more we try and go out, we get pulled in the situation, we get pulled one way or another. But sometimes by going in, we open ourselves up to colors and to rays and to energies in a very different way. So astrology has always been a language of spirituality, not just with the doing a consultation. That was the privilege of the rulers and the kings. And if an astrologer was wrong, they got killed or locked up or something terrible happened to them. But really, the spiritual teachings of the masters and the great ones over ages, they put the teachings of initiation, of growing and developing a spiritual enlightenment and the process of becoming enlightened in the very constellations and the stars. They put the stories there and passed them on through mythologies and teachings so that they wouldn't be lost by different politics or things going on in the world. So they would always be something that would be there that we could aspire to. And when we get to progressions, there's a certain amount, we look at the mechanics, but when we start looking at wondering, when a planet touches a star, when something hits a constellation, when a certain teaching comes towards you, it opens up our concept of what we can do with astrology. At a practical level, sometimes someone come in with challenged circumstances, maybe autistic, maybe more difficult challenges, but there's still a soul in the body, and they still can be reached by color and sound. There's still ways, lessons to be learned. They may be more evolved spiritually, even though they can't show it outwardly. So it's very difficult to judge a person by themselves. There's too many different potentials, too many different sides to them. But yeah, so we switch to the full moon. Now you can see it's coming down. So we just it's simple. It's just the 144 different sets of intervals based on the sun and moon signs. So in psychology, when they make psychological types, they have 16 types or 32 types of this. Rarely is there more types than that they try and group people into. Well, if you just take the sun and moon combinations in astrology, you have 144 different types of people. Before you even add other aspects of time of day or ascendant or angles or anything, it's an incredibly diverse classification system. Really profound. And psychology has, over the last 40 years, kind of permeated into astrology, and the behavioral aspects of psychology have really been confirmed and worked with astrology. So a lot of great insightful works have been written about the psychological implications of astrology. Unfortunately, there is also a lot of works that were intuitively envisioned, that came intuitively to women, to different people over the years, over the centuries, really wise people that had spiritual experiences, and they wrote about them, and they brought them through the signs of the zodiac and through talking about astrology. And a lot of those teachers are being marginalized. We don't find them so much. The books, some of their books are still around, and materials they have to find out about them. They're not really promoted as the psychological astrology became the mainstream. I think something was lost because the spiritual astrology is not the psychological astrology. And there's many more ways we relate to our heavenly being, our place under the heavens, and the wonder of it all from the chart than just the psychological side. I love the psychological, it's very useful, but it's not, it only takes it to a certain level. It doesn't break through. By the time you find love or God or spirit in through your chart, if it helps you to find that, you don't need your chart anymore. You're beyond it, it all opens up. You're living you're a colorful being, a wholesome being. But you can get stuck in certain patterns, stuck at certain levels. And difficulty with psychology, there's a tendency to want to see someone every week or every month, and you have ongoing consultation, ongoing things. It's financially feasible. But sometimes you can do a chart for someone and say, oh, you don't need to see me for 20 years or for 15 years. You're on your course. Come back and see me when this is coming on. We're dealing with, but we don't usually know people well enough. So how much we can communicate, what we can do with the chart, how we can express each other, it's a puzzle. It's how much can you tap? How well can you, how colorful can you be? How clear can you be? How lucid can you be? Can they hear what you're saying? Wow. Can you say what someone needs to hear, or are you just saying what you want to hear? There's so many ways we can put this out or take this in. But the aspects, they're not the planets, they're the relationships, the mood of the planets, between the sun and moon, as we just saw, but between each planet, they're going to have these moods and tones that are expressive uniquely of it. And it's just the mental expression is narrower and way more focused, but in a way much more narrow and less sensitive than working with aspects as moods and colors. With the classes, we're not doing that. I'm taking through the steps of the foundations of astrology to get a solid anchor to be able to work with this, so that you can open up to these other considerations. And if they catch you, you'll fly in it for a while. I still do my practice stuff, but I still keep opening up to some of these ideas that kind of just, they speak for themselves more than the words. Okay, so that's the end of this. We'll close this off. How are we doing for time? Okay, we're just about time. I think I'm about talked out. There were some, oh yeah, there were some other things, some material I'm going to get. I have to go with this. I'm going to try and get it onto the forum. There's 3 articles by Manly Palmer Hall on Pythagoras, on the life of Pythagoras, color and music by Pythagoras, and mathematics, where he goes into the 10 numbers, and how those relate to. And there's a book by Stephen Forrest who wrote Handbook to Humanistic. Not by Stephen Forrest, excuse me, by Michael Mayer, who wrote the Handbook to Humanistic Astrology. And he has this section, he talks about Pythagorean numbers and how they relate to the aspects and gets his meaning from the numbers. Those are really all useful things. And Dane Rudger, in his book that's more or less disappeared, you can't find it anymore, occasionally it's about the astrology of personality. It's a great inspirational book because it mixed the spiritual with the psychological and the astrological. And unfortunately, the psychological astrology moved on, but it didn't. The other stuff is still there, but it's more hidden. But his book, so there's other ways of looking at, there's still other means and textures by looking at aspects. But really, if there's a difficult aspect or a good aspect, to make the most of it, you work on each end of the aspect. You work on each planet, and you make those planets express themselves better, more spiritually, more happy, more healthy, well, less hurtful, less harmful, less negative. And it's easy to say, it's not easy to do, but that's what we're doing. We're trying to work, but we're getting to know the planets, and with this planet comes these aspects, with this person comes these baggages, with this planet comes these aspects. We have to get used to working with them and finding ourselves, find that other people don't have it, and we grow through them, we learn through them, we evolve through them. Okay, this is as far as we're going today. Yeah, next week I think we go into the signs more deeply and bring in some of the I Ching material. Okay, so I'll see you next week. Thanks. Okay, bye. Okay.